Yogi Adityanath made history today as he was sworn in as the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh for a second term. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo story. Let's take a deep dive into the political implications of this big unfolding political story this evening. Yogi Adityanath, the first Chief Minister in 37 years to lead the state of Uttar Pradesh for a second consecutive term. Mr. Adityanath is somebody who was in fact appointed after the elections last time, but this time he was very much the face of the campaign along with Prime Minister Modi. On the program today, looking at the rise and rise of Yogi Adityanath, many are describing today's swearing in ceremony as a virtual coronation, saying it's Uttar Pradesh today and possibly Delhi in 2029. Is Yogi Adityanath now well on his way to becoming the second most important man in the BJP? Decoding the success of Yogi Adityanath and where he stands in the larger Sangh Parivar is our focus on the program today. Let's introduce our guests. We're joined by Dr. Ashwani Mahajan, leader of the Swadeshi Jagran Manch. Welcome to the program, sir. Zafar Sareshwala, educationist and analyst, is with us. And we're also joined by veteran journalist and commentator Tavleen Singh. We're hoping to have Rajat Sethi with us in a moment from now. I'll start with you, Ashwani Mahajan, if I may. Dr. Mahajan, how do you see the rise and rise of Yogi Adityanath? एक जमाना था जब योगी आदित्यनाथ के बारे में बीजेपी और संघ परिवार के लीडर्स खुद ही उनको फ्रिंज लीडर कहते थे. I am old enough to remember those years when he was with the Hindu Vahini Manch, which he started. And even the last election, the BJP won, but he was an afterthought. He was appointed after the victory. How do you see this rise and rise of Yogi Adityanath, and what significance do you attach to it in terms of his place in the larger hierarchy within the Sangh?
Everybody who's important today was a fringe element sometime. So that is
These
so.
were not these were not our words. These were words that the BJP's leadership used to use for him,
Uh,
is what I remember.
so that doesn't make any difference. But in fact, the performance of Yogi uh, had been, I think, the major issue in these elections. And if you see, as a student of economics, I would only see what is economic performance and the performance with regard to the social indicators is concerned. You see, if you have a look at the uh, SDGs, the data published by the Niti Aayog, I was just looking at the data uh, in the past 2 3 years. I find uh, uh, Uttar Pradesh uh, going up from 42 points to 60 points, 18 points gain in just 2 years. That what does it mean? Uh, Bihar increasing by just 4 points, Assam by 8 points, uh, Jharkhand by 6 points, Madhya Pradesh 10 points, Rajasthan 10 points. Just have a look at West Bengal, rising from 56 points to 62 points. So it indicates that these SDGs are calculated, uh, are estimated on scientific grounds as per the uh, UN system. So, uh, so I was just trying to see this, that is it by fluke or something else. So I just found that there are five SDGs in which Uttar Pradesh has done extremely well. Uh, One is in terms of the health and well-being, uh, SDG 3, in which Uttar Pradesh has gone up from 25 points to 60 points. In terms of, you will be more interested in the gender equality. In that also, Uttar Pradesh has done better. And also, if you look at the clean and affordable energy,
Yeah.
SDG 7, Uttar Pradesh has gone up from 23 points to 100 points. So it is not by fluke. It is the real work done by the
So,
government, which
so,
has actually resulted into in this victory. So this
So
is
you believe, Dr. Mahajan, speaking as an economist, that a lot of the sort of welfareism combined with the law and order performance is what has led to this victory. But what does this do? And we'll examine that and see if our panel agrees, because of course there would have been a element of Hindutva, but there would also have been an element of Moditva, the Modi factor. But can I ask you, does this make Yogi Adityanath a very different kind of BJP chief minister, one who is autonomous almost of the leadership in Delhi?
Uh, in fact, I don't see anything like that. Every leader is different. If you look at Madhya Pradesh, if you look at UP, if you look at other places, every leader is a different human being altogether, and his performance, and obviously, sometimes you have to perform according to the situation. You see, the law and order was a major issue in the previous elections,
Hmm.
17 election, and everybody agrees that he has done extremely well in terms of law and order, and those who were considered to be criminals, and they are themselves going in for surrender, and they don't want
S-
so that kind that and you see, crime is something which has to be curbed. If you
Yeah.
if you want to live in a civilized society, crimes have to be
So it's obviously a complex set of complex combination of factors that led to this very handsome win for the BJP in UP. And looking ahead, Tavleen, if I can bring you in, there are a lot of people who've been sort of commenting, looking at this rise as one step towards an inevitable presence on the national stage. There are others who've said that Yogi Adityanath is not even a member of the BJP parliamentary board as of now. This is jumping the gun. This is very much about Uttar Pradesh, where the last time, as I just mentioned, he was a post poll decision, not even one going into the election. What does this tell us about the shifting currents, perhaps within the BJP, where, of course, Narendra Modi remains the bulwark, but other currents could be shifting?
Well, for a start, I don't know what SDGs are. So, but I do want to say,
Sustainable development goals. So I think the point
oh,
that Dr. Mahajan is making is that there are all of these economic indices on which he says the Uttar Pradesh government has performed well.
and one of them is health.
And one of them he has read out is on that performance is an
Okay, well,
improved
clearly,
performance on
that
health.
astounds me because actually the worst period of the Delta wave was what we saw in UP. And at that point, there were shortages of hospital beds, oxygen, the whole works. So if he's improved healthcare in Uttar Pradesh, then he deserves to win because it was abysmal at the height of that crisis, right? Secondly, I actually think that even when we talk about improved law and order, the first time I heard that was when Muhammad Akhlaq was lynched. And I remember going to that village near Delhi, and the people who'd actually participated in the lynching said that they were now fearless about being caught or sent to jail for anything they did, was because the criminals that he was going to catch were going to be Muslim ones. And actually that is what we saw when there was the citizenship protests, etc. Who are the people that got caught? So I'm actually not buying any of that. I don't think that healthcare has improved dramatically in UP or law and order. I think that what has really happened is that what we've missed, what I certainly missed, was the lab arthis, as they call them, as a vote bank. I think he delivered very well on welfare schemes that were started long ago and that didn't do very well. Secondly, I think that Hindutva has played a huge role in this. the corridor to the temple in Banaras, the fact that he is a Hindu monk, the fact that a lot of very very offensive hate speeches came to be accepted as normal. So in my view, those are the reasons why he may have won. As for whether he could become prime minister, I mean, most people know that if you win Uttar Pradesh once, you have a good chance. If you've won it twice, then you have a very good chance. I
Yeah.
mean, what that means for India, God help us. But, obviously, if he's won twice, then he's very much a leader in his own right.
Ashwani Mahajan made this very interesting and acerbic comment in the beginning, Rajat, when I asked him that there was a time when Yogi Adityanath, when Yogi Adityanath would speak in Parliament and let's say make a speech which at that time was regarded as extremist, BJP leaders would say, "Why do you people in the media focus on the fringe?" And he said, everyone who was once called fringe is today mainstream, and the idea of fringe and mainstream has radically changed. Rajat, how do you see the political significance of the moment today in the presence of the Prime Minister, the Home Minister, a galaxy of BJP leaders, business leaders, film stars, mega stars on that list? The second term for Yogi Adityanath, as Tavleen Singh says, usually once is enough to declare your arrival on the national stage.
See, Barkha ji, as you are aware, I am a resident of Uttar Pradesh. I am born and brought up in Kanpur. I can tell you, in my dreams, when I was living up in UP, I could have never imagined that on the national platform we would ever be discussing on a UP model. We had lost hopes that Uttar Pradesh can ever be revived. The descent of UP to a bottomless pit that was pushed by first Mayawati, then this musical chair between Mayawati on one side and Akhilesh and Mulayam Singh Yadav on the other side, had depleted all kinds of hopes that the youth had from this state altogether. I was born in Kanpur, and then I remember during the entire 90s, when the Kala Bacha incident and all of those incidents used to happen, the single biggest fear for us and our parents would be कि बच्चा बड़ा हो तो जल्दी से यूपी से बाहर निकले. You know, we have lived in those times, and I belong to the millennial generation which cannot sort of even forget what we have been through. How did Indians, the other part of India, used to treat people from UP? As there was an absolute depletion of respect. What has fundamentally changed with Yogi Adityanath's ascendancy is that he has infused enormous confidence on the absolute people who are standing on the last in the queue, people who are with very normal backgrounds, with very basic sources and resources to dream and to dream big. But that is some level of infusion of hope which has come in at a very, very big scale. I think
So what is
societies emerge when you are led by leaders who have climbed up the ladders themselves, who've struggled hard, and have emerged as a role model for
Has
youngsters
the
like us.
perception of Yogi Adityanath within the BJP thus invariably changed? And I'll share with you, I can't name the person, but I remember when Yogi Adityanath was the surprise choice last time. He was, as we all know, he was chosen after the BJP had won UP. A BJP leader said to me that we need Yogi Adityanath inside our tent and not outside our tent. If he is outside our tent, he can actually create trouble for us. Do you believe the perception, the place in the BJP hierarchy, Rajat, has changed for Adityanath within the BJP?
Well, see, you have seen politics from far more longer decades than I have, and I can tell you politics is an ever-evolving sort of field. You see new and new leaders emerge all the time. They have to prove. They are given a specific time window to prove. You don't get chances over and over again because it's a hyper-competitive space. And when he got his chance, he delivered. He delivered on every single aspect of what the public expects out of him.
Okay.
Today we are talking about developmental things. We can go on and on about the developmental metrics which have been tracked by independent organizations and agencies. He's performed well. Law and order. Who could have imagined that law and order could be a wave election issue? It became a wave issue because there were reasons why it had to become wave. There were reasons why this pent-up frustration of the public of Uttar Pradesh felt that there is no hearing whatsoever. Which thana should we go to report incidents? The moment you go to a thana, there were people who used to hound us. Now the
So I
reporting has people are more freer. I don't know about what NCRB data talks about, but there is palpable amount of freedom for people to report on issues. There's palpable amount of freedom to expect law and order would be delivered in this state. That's a very,
Okay,
very big thing coming in
okay,
from Uttar Pradesh.
I agree that travel through UP did the one thing that Yogi Adityanath supporters or the BJP supporters did mention was law and order. But as we've been saying, there's a very complex mix of factors here: Hindutva, welfareism, the tough guy image, law and order. The absence of perhaps enough work by the opposition, the absence, and the Modi factor. Let's not get away from the Modi factor. So there's a lot going on here, and I have more questions on that. But first, let me bring in Zafar Sareshwala. Rajat, Sethi, and Dr. Ashwani Mahajan make the point that Yogi Adityanath has done well on several development indices. But what about the index of inclusion? And that is a question that has to be asked, Zafar. And I ask you this because you have been arguing that the Muslims of UP now need to reach out to Yogi Adityanath. How is Yogi Adityanath going to get past the image of being the leader who spoke about an 80-20 sort of rhetoric on the campaign trail? And you have seen, and I'm very just struck by Dr. Mahajan saying how what was once called the fringe is today India's mainstream, challenging therefore what was the very heart of how we understand our politics. Are we seeing that again in Uttar Pradesh?
See, Barkha, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
You know, there are a lot of factors, different factors. And of course, Moditwa, Mr. Modi's presence was one of the most important factors that was there. And, in last 5 years of Mr. Yogi, I've traveled extensively in UP. I mean, all across, northern UP, western UP, south, east UP also. One thing, yes, earlier also we used to travel. One thing was there, I mean, I remember once I was going east of UP and we wanted to reach Lucknow. And I was under that impression that यहाँ तो रात को सफर करना बहुत मुश्किल है. So my colleagues they said, नहीं, Zafar bhai, we can. And we traveled 12 o'clock at night in the eastern UP, reached Lucknow. So this feeling was there amongst the people that safety is there. I mean, that was one very important factor. And second, yes, as Tavleen ji was saying, Labharti or whatever. I mean, in this country, we have a large section of poor people, very large section. I mean, for them, the most important thing is that those welfare things, do they reach them or not? And in that, I think Mr. Yogi, because ultimately that last mile is to be taken care of by the central government, because the central government gives, and ultimately that last mile has to be delivered by the state government. And I think in that deliverance of welfare schemes like, anaj ka distribution, various schemes, housing, घर के लिए जो पैसे मिले, toilet के लिए मिले, gas के cylinder, in most of these, it went directly to the people. And one thing was there, there was no discrimination amongst Muslims also. That's why, as we discussed last time, Samajwadi, after Samajwadi Party, the largest recipient of Muslim vote was BJP, which was about 11 to 12%. Because in distribution of welfare, Yogi Adityanath's government was not at all discriminatory. And I myself have met Mr. Yogi twice as chief minister. And both the times I took Muslim issues with him. So this Yogi Adityanath, the perception which we have, all of us have about him, and when I sat down with him on Muslim issues, was totally different.
But that perception has also been constructed by him with his statements, whether it is references to 80-20 or Abba Jan and so on. That's not a perception that has been come out of nowhere. It is also his background as a Hindutva leader, as a face of Hindutva.
Yes, I mean, so that's where I come from, and that's why I tell the Muslims that go and build up, because that is politics of Yogi Adityanath or BJP. That is separate. Let that remain. But when you go to Yogi Adityanath, and I've seen with a lot of BJP leaders, their perception in public face, and when you go personally or when you take up issues with them, So that's why I'm again
So,
repeating that the Muslim community in UP
okay.
should now have a direct channel of communication open with Yogi
I, I,
Adityanath
I,
and take their issues with them.
Okay, the last time you said this, there was a fierce sort of backlash to what you said, and I know Tavleen's wanting to come in, and then I want to return the focus to what this means. You know, Rajat Sethi has referenced a UP model. Every winning chief minister is now calling his or her state the model that can go national, the model that can be emulated. This started with Modi in the Gujarat model. Kejriwal is now claiming a Delhi model, and now we have talk of a UP model. But first, Tavleen, it's over to you.
Okay, I'm actually quite shocked at what Zafar Saab just said because maybe he knows Muslims in UP that are different to the Muslims that I know, but there so much here when we talk about law and order having improved, not for Muslims, not for Muslims at all. Their properties were seized. In fact, I think the Supreme Court has actually returned them. It was a very unfair system of arrests. So, do Muslims feel safe now going to a thana to report these things? Do Dalits feel safe? Don't forget, we've just seen Lakhimpur Kheri and before that Hathras. So, when we talk in these grandiose terms, just because he's won, it doesn't mean that we need to overlook the fact that his whole career in politics has been built on dividing Hindus from Muslims. He came into politics with the Ram Janmabhoomi movement. The statements he made long before he became chief minister were very clearly anti Muslim. So, if he now is going to be a transformed person and is really going to try and heal those deep divisions in UP, well, good for him. I mean, you can't argue in democracy with the box office. I am no fan of Yogi Adityanath, but if the people of Uttar Pradesh have given him a mandate, we have to respect that. We have to respect that. And does it make him a national figure? Yes, it makes him the second most important politician after Narendra Modi.
That is what I would argue, and that is what the focus is on. Zafar Sareshwala, I just checked the numbers. I thought it was about 8% of the Muslim vote went to the BJP according to post poll surveys. That's what we have there. But Zafar, I'm sure you'll want to respond. But let's come back to this. Let's come back to if this is the beginning of Yogi Adityanath's sort of national ascent. Will his politics change? Can his politics change? Dr. Mahajan, you focused a lot on SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. You focused a lot on UP's improved governance model. Do you believe, honestly, that that alone has won the election? There's also data from the CSDS Lok Niti survey that shows us something quite interesting. It shows us that Narendra Modi remains the most popular leader within the Sangh, definitely the only one who remains more popular than his party. In the case of Yogi Adityanath, the party was marginally more popular than the chief minister. So I just wanted to bring that home. 35% of voters were fully satisfied with Yogi Adityanath's performance. But of course, this was a state election, so there was more expression of anti-incumbency. When I say anti-incumbency, I mean some complaints about the government vis-a-vis the state government than with the central government. This is the post-poll survey from Lok Niti CSDS. Dr. Mahajan, please go ahead.
But
Sorry, you're on mute. Yeah, go ahead, sir. Yeah.
yeah, Barkha, basically, no election is won or run on the same on one set of issues. In fact, all these issues are, as you have all rightly mentioned, that many issues are mixed up. But you see, then there is a kind of people make mind for uh, they think what to do about voting. You see, when they Jafar Bhai talked about Muslim votes, and in fact, whether we agree in this show or not, but the position of Muslim women was not so good when Yogi took over at that point of time. And in the meanwhile, Parliament passed triple talaq law, and that changed the whole scenario. And I was just having a look at the data provided by somebody that the divorce rate has come down by 90% in Muslim. So that has also changed the mindset of the women folk in Muslims. So that might have given given a fact to this kind of voting pattern. This is but I feel is that people are happy with the Yogi Adityanath because of the development. Look at the roads, look at the corridors, look at the uh, uh, highways. So all that also contributes. What people want from the government, they should have good infrastructure. What do they want? If As Jafar Bhai has also said that we some people are without houses, and they are without houses for decades. And if money is sent to them,
Yeah,
okay, you make your house.
I agree with you that free rations, for example,
Yeah,
if it was if
free ration was only COVID related. But you see, LPG connection, all sorts of, and I don't agree with it that it is welfareism. No, welfareism is a different connotation, having a different connotation. That when you do welfare activities to fetch votes, but if you feel that you have been sent for governance, and the poor masses, they need help from the government for making their houses,
Mhm.
ration is only limited,
So
sort of thing.
I
So you but
you you
what we feel as RSS, as Swadeshi Jagar Manch, that money, just sending money, freebies, like others are doing. I'm not naming the states. So the freebies is no good idea, because we should create such an atmosphere whereby people can earn their livelihood themselves. So there should be sufficient employment opportunities, and
I
this is what I think the Yogi government should be then
yeah.
doing in the next
Let,
term.
let me pick up from here and take it to you, Rajat. This suggestion of let's not call it welfareism if you don't agree on that phrase, but this direct cash benefits, LPG cylinders, free rations, schemes that are targeted at those who live on the margins economically, combined with the Modi factor, combined with Yogi Adityanath's tough image, combined with uh, Hindutva. Is this how you would see it? And would you agree that Mr. Adityanath today is the second most powerful person in the BJP, displacing the otherwise unquestioned authority of the Home Minister, who perhaps in other states like Gujarat, his home state, was able to change a chief minister without anyone so much even blinking?
See, I know BJP very little. I can tell you nobody in BJP thinks like this, Barkhaji.
Hmm.
No one thinks on these hierarchy levels. Please understand the mission mode in which the BJP leadership in every single state is currently performing with. I have been working in the Northeast for a very long period of time. I have seen the other states as well. Every single chief minister, the BJP chief minister, is in that competitive landscape that I want to make my state number one. When UP starts pushing Karnataka behind, it's the Karnataka's leadership which comes together. Is like, how do we become a better state? How do we deliver on better governance performance? That's what people, and that's what is obsessing the current leadership in the BJP. It's not
Okay.
about who is number one and who is number two. They never think, and Prime Minister especially, he comes in with a very different understanding. You know what he's doing currently? He's calling all the Sikh intellectuals, trying to make an outreach, trying to understand where all did the BJP not understand, or or relate with the Punjabi sentiments. He is doing that. He is charting a course for the next 2 decades at least. He has passed on a message to the Karyakartas that Punjab, winning over the hearts and minds of the people of Punjab, should be the next big goal, and ensure that they gave us an opportunity so that BJP could serve the people there as well.
Yeah, no,
That is,
I think there's no question that the
and
BJP is.
no one
Yeah.
has this priority that who is going to be number one, who is going to be number two. By default, analysts are always in that frame of mind to constantly, keep those metrics going, so that they can publish articles, they can publish tweets, write tweets, get popular, etc. But these politicians are not in that business. And currently, in this setup with Prime Minister leading from the front, This current BJP is very different. They are cutthroat in terms of delivering. They are cutthroat in terms of ensuring that they are out there delivering the best governance models as compared to their peers, and they'll go all out to do that. Today, Himanta Biswa Sharma is out competing a lot of other mainstream states. He'll carry on with that. Gujarat has now challenged from UP, from Assam, and from Karnataka and other states. It's not just one state having a model.
And I,
That's what
and
the
I, and I take
model.
your point. Yeah, I
Yeah.
take your point that the BJP is in perennially expansionist mode, and
No, no,
whether
no,
it's
it's governance expansionism, not political expansionism. Governance
well, both,
expansionism.
well, both, and
Nobody,
there's
nobody.
nothing
I'll
wrong
tell
in
you one
seeking
thing, and I'll
political
conclude here,
expansion.
Barkhaji. I'll just tell
Yeah.
you one thing. No one in this country, schemes have come and gone. There have been all these fancy name associated with every single scheme. Nobody thought that a scheme can actually be delivered at 100%, 100.0. That's the level of percentage points
Okay,
that
okay.
every single scheme is chased by the prime minister. That
Oh,
is no normal level.
and
That's a
and
governance obsession.
and
This
I
is what
think and I
this is
think the
what
data
Tavleen does
bears.
not understand.
I'll
This
come
is
to the.
this fascination for of pulling down the BJP on the governance by labeling welfareism, all these communist words, is not what how the BJP thinks or
Okay,
operates. Please get the
okay.
diction correct.
I'll come to Tavleen in just a moment. Zafar was wanting to come in and then Tavleen. I just wanted to make the point to you, Rajat, that of course we are underlining that actually the Prime Minister remains the biggest factor in every single election. Take Uttarakhand, where your Chief Minister, sitting Chief Minister, loses. He's now Chief Minister again, but the state goes to the BJP. That is the proof that you need. The BJP has a leader and a cadre. It has the RSS and it has Modi. So that's half the job done, and no disagreements there on the electoral juggernaut and appetite. I just want to understand and decode this moment of Yogi Adityanath. Would he remain confined to Uttar Pradesh? Obviously, for the next few years, yes. But he's a young person. He's a young under 50 politician. Zafar Sareshwala, please, you were wanting to come in and then Tavleen.
No, Barkha, in fact, there was no backlash when I said in your show that
Yeah.
Muslims should now, from here on, build a set of communication with Yogi. In fact, I received so many phone calls from Muslims in UP that Zafar bhai, this is the way forward. Because we have to do it. I mean, he has won the election. I mean, come on. This was the free and fair election. He is won. He is there. Now, what do we do? So I think we will have to do it, and he's the chief minister. And I remind that today when he took that oath was for 24 crore people from UP. So, ek haath tum badhao, ek haath wo badhayenge. So I think, and coming back to again, see the one factor which we forget for BJP's win is, of course, Mr. Modi is the most important factor, that beyond doubt. And Yogi Adityanath, what he did, they have a set vote bank, BJP has. So there was no destruction in that vote bank, 42% or whatever it is. So that was, I think, big achievement of Yogi Adityanath in spite of COVID and, so many things happening. He maintained that intact. And third, the election machinery, the karyakartas of BJP, I don't think no party has been able to replicate that model yet anywhere in the country.
But
So
I
I
will
think you
still,
should
I
give
will still
credit.
say to you that you are putting the onus of the outreach on the Muslims, and the onus of the outreach in any country, in any government with any party, has to first be on the government. The outreach is to begin with those who hold power. It can't begin
No,
from within the.
okay, let's start. Rather than pehle aap, let's we begin and do it. I
Okay,
did that earlier. I got very good response. But then the Muslims of UP did not continue with that. So I think let's do it again.
okay.
Why to
Let's
wait that they are calling
let
or I should go?
let's bring in Tavleen now. Tavleen, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to clarify something. I didn't say that inside the BJP they were seeing who was number one and number two. I think that Rajat Sethi misunderstood me. You asked me if he
I did
now
ask you.
becomes a
Yeah.
more important politician nationally. And yes, he does. And there's no point in sneering at columnists who write for their articles, etc. Dear Rajat Sethi, I'm not as starry-eyed as you are. I'm older than you, and please, let's not, when you're full supporter of the BJP. It's quite different to actually trying. I'm not a supporter of Yogi Adityanath, and I am saying you have to accept the mandate of the people. The other point I want to make, which I
But
think that
you have been a supporter of the Prime Minister. You have been a supporter of.
I have been, I don't deny that. But the other point I want to explain to little Rajat Sethi is that
This
it's not
condescending attitude,
governance.
this little, I cannot carry on with this. This is deeply hurtful
Yeah.
and condescending.
Well, you
Yeah,
were
I
you
don't,
These
I don't
matters
you
think
need
that
to
were
this is
carry
you
on
little.
with
I
insulted
don't.
your
Let's
me.
not
I'm
personalize
I
it,
have
sorry.
please.
a moral
You
platform. I don't give a
insulted
damn
me.
to it. Okay,
Let's
please, I'm
not
leaving this show.
personalize.
This belittling,
No, no,
this
no.
this
Let's
infantilizing
please.
attitude is
I
why
am.
she's in pits. She is in bins right now. Nobody gives
Okay.
a damn to what she writes. This is
Okay.
not
Can
the way
we?
how decent debates should go on.
I.
Can't we talk man to woman?
I am
You have to
requesting.
infantilize everybody out there.
I am requesting
This is
both
a
of
I'm
young
you
sorry, but
now.
country. The
Please,
youth are
I'm
going
please,
to
sorry,
can
benefit.
we?
Barkha. He
Okay.
Not
is
Can
only
being
we?
if I were to
extremely
Please,
go
my
back
rude.
request to both
the
of you. Let me.
condescending language. I'm
Okay.
sorry,
Okay.
this cannot carry on. I'm
Can we
leaving. This
not
is not the way
personalize?
how she should
Okay.
talk, and
Okay.
she should
Can.
be allowed to talk.
I.
What
She's not
about you
worthy
insulting
out
me
here to talk
first?
like this
Okay.
to me.
Okay.
I'm
You
Can
sorry.
we?
insulted me first, Rajat Sethi. If you can dish it out, you can
Can
take
we?
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we
No,
please
Barkha,
not
this is no.
personalize? Yeah.
He's the one who said very sneeringly articles written by columnists to, to make.
I.
I mean, come on. And then
I.
on top of that, he calls me the pits on your show.
Okay.
I
I'm.
mean, really, there is a
I can
limit.
only I can only express regret for any conversation that turns uncivil and turns personal. It's
That was
always my
really that was
endeavor.
all right.
It is
Anyway,
always my
I had
endeavor to not have a
uh,
personal
yeah,
meme on this
I
show. I
meant
try very
in
hard to
terms
do
of
it.
age.
Yeah.
He's much younger than me. It was
Okay.
not an insult.
I
I'm
will call him
70,
after this
and
show
he
and
called
talk to
himself a
him.
millennial.
I will call him after the
Right?
show and talk to him. Let's complete the point.
That's
Let's take
all that I
last
meant. And
comments.
he started shrieking about, "Oh, nobody listens to her." Then why was he on the show with me? He should have left long ago.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Now I
Make your
want to
point.
actually just make one point, which we've missed totally, which I think was very important in the case of Akhilesh losing out despite his having gained so much momentum, and that point was Parivarvad. I actually have written that in more than one column. Uh, all the other political parties that that are contesting in the opposition space are all family-run parties, and I think that the fact that Narendra Modi, when he was in UP, went on, he must have repeated this at least 50 times. Parivarvad. He used the word very effectively, and I think that that is what went against Akhilesh Yadav, although he'd built up quite a considerable momentum. So that's one point. Secondly, Mr. Rajat Sethi is confusing electoral success with governance. Actually, one of the criticisms that is made against the Modi electoral machine is that they don't spend enough time on governance and much too much time on winning
Okay.
elections.
Okay, Dr. Mahajan, last words to you. Within the Sangh Parivar, talking as a Swadeshi Jagran Manch leader, as an RSS man, how do you see the cult of personality that has come to define the new politics? The RSS traditionally was never that comfortable with it. Has it made its peace with this new politics?
You see, new politics is all about development. As Rajat has also said, that there is a competition amongst the BJP chief ministers also, and in fact there is a competition with amongst everybody in all the states, that we have to do something better. And you see, now the next phase, as have already said, in this term, the Yogi Adityanath's priority should be well-being of all. And in fact, this is what Narendra Modi has also been saying time and again: "Sabka Vishwas and Sabka Vikas." So I think it is for all. And in fact, if development happens, it is for the development of everybody. If good infrastructure is there, if good educational institutions are built, if good roads are built, if good schools are built, if the governance is good, if the law and order is good, then everybody would get benefited. And it's not just one section of the society or the other section of the society, are those who have voted for BJP or those who have not voted for BJP. Everybody would get benefited. I
Well,
think that
yeah.
should be the direction of politics today. instead of Tavleen ji, what I want to say, and Jafar bhai, you see, whosoever comes, whosoever wins, one, whether it is BJP or anybody else, the objective should be the welfare of all, and also the employment for all, well-being of all, and everybody should have enough opportunities to earn their livelihood. Otherwise, what is happening is that we were talking about universal basic incomes and this and
Yeah.
that and Manrega and everything. I think all these things should stop, and people should have decent living, decent, handsome incomes, not dependent on all these freebies and help by the governments. So this is what the way
Yeah.
forward for everybody. I'm not talking of only
Yes.
Yogi Adityanath. I'm talking for everybody, and that
Let's
should be the way forward. Yeah.
Well, I think there's a very, very complex combination of factors that leads to the winning and losing of elections. But there's no doubt that politics has shifted, and the BJP has reset the terms in many ways of how politics and elections are either fought, won, or lost. Thank you very much, everybody. Dr. Mahajan, Tavleen Singh, Zafar, Sareshwala, and to Rajat, who left in anger. Thank you, and we hope to have you back soon. Thank you very much, everybody. See you tomorrow. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.